Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Experience, live with Russ and Scott.
Welcome to The Experience, live with Russ and Scott.
Special thank you to our sponsors, the Gillette Home team of Keller Williams Vidal Willamette. For all your real estate needs, go to teamgillette.com. And Summit Cleaning and Restoration. For all your cleaning and restoration needs, go to summitclean.com. Woo! Good morning, everybody. This is the
Good
Experience
morning,
live
Russ.
with Russ and Scott, and we are here live and ready to go.
That's right.
I got a decent night's sleep last night, Scott, and I'm ready to go.
All right. Well, it's going to be a good show. We've got, it's going to be a special show, I think. This is the day before Thanksgiving here in the U.S.
Yes. And I want to encourage everybody. So it was last year, Dr. Cindy Milligan joined us right before Thanksgiving. We started the hashtag 1000 thanks, really just promoting that and reminding everybody for two reasons. Number one, reminding everybody to be thankful. And then number two, it lets others know that you're thankful for them. And so I just want to encourage everybody on all your social media posts, use hashtag 1000 thanks and just get out there through Thanksgiving and really throughout the whole year, because we should be thankful all year round, right, Scott?
Yeah, people recognize at the end of the show, you have a slide for that, the 1,000 thanks for people to join it as a movement. And that's what I think is important too, is that, it's just not it's not just a hashtag, but we do really want to rally around that. And, there's great research that says when you practice gratitude, it's better for your health, you're happier, your relationships are better. And so 1,000 thanks is a great reminder.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, listen, as we get rolling this morning, Scott, what do you have going on right now? You got some exciting things with
I
your
have
new book.
I have 1,000 thanks for Veronica Jeans, the co-author of Freeze in Action in the Face of a Business Crisis, How to React When the Unexpected Happens. So it is available on Amazon, and it's all about preparing your business for disaster. And it can be big, pandemic, economic crisis, could be maybe just localized to your business, like the loss of a key employee or a key customer, or maybe a service provider. Maybe costs are going up, and what are you going to do? Well, we've got a way for you to prepare. Look at your strategy, look at your tactics, map your business plan, and then identify the risks. And with every risk, there's an opportunity. So be prepared.
That's right. Well, and that's just it. There are so many opportunities that come by through our path every day, right? I mean, sometimes
Mhm.
they're disguised as challenges, which all of us go through, right? And we go through challenges, and instead of freezing up, it's time to look for those opportunities and what can you do with the gifts and the circumstances that God has allowed you to go through. So I'm excited about that book and excited
Yeah.
about all that you're doing. And really, I just want to again say what a blessing everybody is in this community to me. Thank you, everybody, for your prayers and your thoughts. Appreciate everybody for your wonderful comments, and everything is moving along positively. And I'm going to stay positive, and everything's going to be good. I completely believe that God is in control and all things are good. So there we go. We're moving and grooving. And Scott, I think it's time to just jump into our guest
Let's
this
do it.
morning, because I think we need to get moving.
Yep. Time goes fast.
All right.
So let's do it.
Does. All right. Well, listen, we are so blessed with so many amazing guests on the Experience Live with Russ and Scott. And Scott was just talking about the list of, what is it, Scott, 113 top digital influencers, and how many of those have actually been on our
Absolutely.
show. And so we want to continue to grow that list. And the people we have on today are amazing. Kristi Horner is with us first today. We're going to bring her in the house. Good morning, Kristi.
Good
Hello,
morning, Russ.
Kristi.
Good morning, Scott. Nice to
Good
meet
morning.
you.
Yeah.
Russ,
Yes, it
I
is
love
so
your
great to.
I just gonna say, Russ, I love your optimism and positivity, no matter in the face of whatever. You just have the best attitude.
Well, thank you. Well, I think you have two choices: be positive or be negative. And so I'll take the positive. And I'm just very thankful. I'm just very thankful for the blessings in my life, and for you, Kristi, as my new friend. And
Yes.
we've been able to talk a few times, and you've already been on one of my other shows. Amazing. I really appreciate you. Give everybody a little insight about you and what you're all about.
Yeah, well, I am the founder and executive director of a nonprofit that started right here in Northeast Ohio in Cleveland. And then truly the silver lining of that challenge, the big one we just all faced, that collective trauma of the pandemic, is that we are now able to support caregivers throughout North America. And so this came about from my own lived experience of supporting my brother who lived with anxiety, depression, and obsessive compulsive disorder. And during those 4 really long years of providing his mental and emotional support, we learned a thing or two about caregiving. And ultimately, we lost him, or what I often say is that he lost his battle with mental illness to suicide in 2014. And my sisters and I realized that no caregiver should take this journey alone, that it doesn't have to be that hard. You don't need to struggle through this journey, very long and winding and challenging, alone. And so we were looking for a community of care and support because our heart is for that caregiver, and found my way in my mid 50s to start launching a nonprofit. And here we are, just supporting caregivers in their time of need. We've now expanded. We serve caregivers of all kinds, and are here to help them to better cope and manage the stress of caregiving. We like to say we're in the caregiver burnout prevention business, because I was there, nobody likes it there. I got stuck, and we help caregivers manage through that.
Well, that is so awesome. Scott, go ahead. You were going to say
I was
something.
just going to say my wife was a paid caregiver, and in I think over 100 households, certainly lots of family members. And so definitely have a heart for this. So thank you for bringing this to the forefront and providing an opportunity, because my experience with all of these types of situations is that it's as if you were the first family to ever have to go through this.
Right. Always.
Yeah.
There's a great Rosalind Carter quote that says, every single one of us at some point in our lives are either going to be cared for or a caregiver. Every single person on this planet. And so kudos to your wife as a professional caregiver. And my guess is she's also an unpaid family caregiver as well, because carers are carers, and all of you are caregivers.
Yeah. I don't think people realize it doesn't matter what type of caregiving you're actually doing. I don't think they realize what a burden. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but it's just a lot on you. When I was able to do some caregiving for my father and mother before they passed away, but I was also blessed with a lot of people that did what you're doing, Kristi, that had a lot more experience than me, that guided me and directed me, starting with my beautiful wife, and a lot of people in the senior living industry. And we got them into a good situation where they started in a community where there was independent living, assisted, and memory care. So they were able to travel and get whatever they needed. And what that allowed me to do was really be the son and love them and care for them in that
Mhm.
way. And
Yes.
then it had other people doing that other stuff. And I'm telling you, it is hard. My hat is off to people that have their parents at home and in certain situations where they're doing it. And I'm not saying one way is right or wrong. I
No.
just know it's so being able to have that mental break and have somebody else do some of those really, really tough things and not
Mhm.
make there's a lot of caregivers out there that get bitter and get just angry and it's horrible because it's hard. It's so hard.
It is. It is. Excellent points.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, now Scott, how long was Christine doing caregiving?
Oh boy, the years go by. I would hate to throw a number out there.
Okay.
Um,
Well, never mind. We'll have
yeah.
Christine. She can
Well,
put
and
it,
then
she's
she's
in the
also, yeah,
comments.
yep. And then of course her mother, although her mother is on her own, living in her house and driving and doing all that stuff. At 91, there's still an aspect there. Absolutely.
Mm.
Wow. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's amazing. Well, listen, we are going to bring in our next guest, and Lionel could not be with us today, but we have an amazing friend, Joe Welch, who's going to join us today, and she's here in the house. Hello, Joe. Woohoo.
Hey, I'm just
Well,
gonna. This is a bit of introduction too with Joe. We, every month we have the virtual global tea break, third Friday of every
yeah.
month, globalteabreak.com. And last month, so in October, Joe was our teacher. She was the educator, and she talked about how we can include people that need closed captioning or can benefit from closed
Mhm.
captioning. And so I enabled that on my Zoom account because Joe showed me how to do it, and I did it, and it was available for the tea break this month because of you, Joe.
Thank you so much. My name is Joe Welch. I am a first generation American. My parents are Colombian. I speak 3 languages. Well, actually 2, and I use the other one with my hands. So I'm a certified sign language interpreter, English, Spanish, and sign language. I want to thank Scott. Yes, that's one of my gifts and one of the priorities I have in everything I do is inclusion. And I think that it's sometimes such easy little things that we can do to create that. But what I do is I also boost self-esteem. I help folks with really looking forward towards their generational wealth and really understanding what we're doing as we're all building our businesses and raising our families. And I think that the caregiver conversation today is so relevant because I am also known as the Will Fairy. And what the Will Fairy does is I help people who are so busy, going crazy, not sure why they even need a will, understand what's going on. And I have an upcoming free Black Friday treat that's going to come. I'll share that link. Right now I'm doing the free gift from thewillfairy.com, but I'll send that to these guys to make sure it gets out to everyone. And it's just such an honor. I wanted to circle back to Kristi and just say that I've been in that situation, and I think a lot of us have, and we don't think about those moments where suddenly we have loss. My husband's a blues musician, and we had lost our partner very suddenly, and everything was up in the air, and we were devastated for, I mean, easily a year just to get on our feet. And then my most recent experience was in 2020 during the pandemic. One of my dearest friends, he went into a coma. He didn't know why, what was going on. He knew something was wrong, called an ambulance, thank God, and then went into a coma for 31 days and didn't have any documentation. And especially when we're looking at the caregivers, which tend to be women, we know that, right? That's not only professionally are we seen that way, but that's who we find in the households and the teaching professions and these caring professions. And I'm not saying that it's not other folks, but that balance of self-care is actually balanced with self-worth and some ahead planning that would allow somebody to not feel, as Russ, I think it was Russ who said that, feeling bitter, feeling overwhelmed. I think sometimes we overextend ourselves because what we need to do is we need to come back and start to see what we bring to the table, acknowledge ourselves, build out a plan, and really look at how to support each other during those times. So I am happy to be a part of this conversation. Tell me what to do. I am absolutely in.
Well, the beautiful thing is, I am completely on track with what you're saying. We are better together, the community coming together, helping each other out. I love the opportunities like this morning where you and Kristi get to meet each other for the first time and really get people connected that can really benefit from what each other are doing. And I love I when you and I first met, first thing that I tapped into was you're talking about the closed captioning and all that stuff. I think I told you my son's in-laws are both deaf, and so he deals with that whole culture. And his wife has struggled with people not including his parent-in-law or his in-laws in a lot of things. We don't
Right.
realize how much of a struggle that is, and people overlook so many people in society where it's important for us all to come together and support each other. That's why I love that you offer those things where you're helping people, get tied into ways that they can make it so they can participate and be part of things and all of that. And Kristi, back to you. Um, from the get-go, I loved your story and how you took a real difficult situation and really have turned it into such a positive journey and positive passion for you. And I think a lot of times when people have talked to me about what I'm going through, it seems so minor compared to what so many people have gone through. And, but taking what God has given you, what the circumstances of your life are, right? They say turn lemons into lemonade, turn it into something positive, right? Because that's really where we can really be effective because people then can relate to what we're going through, right?
No, absolutely. And, there's a great mantra out there of turning your pain into your purpose, basically, and focusing on your purpose over the pain. Anyone who's lived with chronic pain, and I certainly have a chronic pain story as well, or any type of personal pain, knows that it's a very hard, long journey. I mean, recovering from surgery. And when you did a little comparison there, Russ, you were like, "Oh, my story doesn't compare to your story or what others have gone through." And yet what I find myself saying a lot is, and it's actually my daughter's mantra, she came up with this, so she'll get all the props here, but there's no winner in the trauma Olympics. None. We all have a trauma story.
Yeah.
I did a lot of comparing myself. I reserved trauma for rape, incest, observing, violent act of some kind, gun violence, the really big trauma that we, have
Right.
in our heads. And I had never experienced that. So I didn't feel like my story of pain was considered trauma because how could I compare to that? And yet, just like you said, Joe, it's about your self-worth. And it took me years after losing my brother to reclaim that, find that, believe in myself, realize that I am also worthy. And my pain story, no matter, which, is very worthy of my own healing and my own focus. And my trauma, while it's not your trauma, not one of you, we all have a trauma story and it is worthy. We should not be comparing each other. And it's about honoring that story, finding the healing, whatever that looks like for you. And there's so many different ways to heal from trauma, but no comparison, no shaming, and everyone has to find their way through their trauma story. So that kind of went off on a little tangent there from your question.
I think we're such a worthwhile talent, and especially as we see right now, there's a lot of folks really stepping into telling their own story. So I'm going to do my little shameless plug, but it is about my origin story. I'm also an author. I'm a collaborating author in Boss Latinas. So I want to just elevate all the 31 authors who are here, who each have a chapter, and they're all telling their stories. So Boss Latinas, the anthology, it is located on Amazon. But the reason I'm tying this into Kristi's comments is that I've been telling this story in one way or another for such a long time. My own story, that moment of pain, even to my parents, what was hurting me, and they could only see it from their lens, the adults who were in their moment. And being able to then come to that and write it down and give them this final chapter, even that moment, they were like, "We didn't know." And I said, "We've had these conversations." So for me, that circles back into very often we step into caregiving because we're we are looking for validation and affirmation, because we know that the thing we can do is help somebody else.
Mhm.
But really, the caregiving cycle starts with us. And I think that's one of the ways that we're not really, like, we have to be more. So, I mean, it's hard, right, to feel selfish or self-centered. But if we're not doing that, and the analogy I'm sure you guys have heard a million times is, when the oxygen mask comes down, who
Yeah.
are we supposed to put it on? And I will tell you, dollars to donuts, as they say, that typically a mother, especially, or someone in that caregiving role, will be like, oh, I'll put it on the patient, the child, the person first. And we have to put it on ourselves. And I think that what again goes back to that bitterness and that, not knowing
Mhm.
where to go next. So, and I think it's also about talking about some of the hard things. I think that people are not comfortable in that space. We've been raised through different cultural lenses not to talk about death, not to talk about money, not to talk about, things that actually, ironically, would make the experience easier and better.
Oh,
Mhm.
right.
But we have to swallow the hard pill. We have to swallow the hard pill. Before I of course I want to land this plane. The piece that was a new discovery for me, because I have some amazing coaches. I get to meet these guys, and I go to the tea and I listen. The most amazing thing I learned just in this last week was, we're embarrassed. There's a humiliation that we don't have something to give. And so a lot of the stuff I thought was only from fear, but it's also from embarrassment that we haven't done better, that we haven't done more for our family, that we don't have the large house or the car, whatever these superficial check boxes are. And so if we start to look at caregivers, it's also because they didn't finish school or do the thing, and they're embarrassed that they don't have something more to give. And I think that we need to really reframe that
Oh,
thinking.
gosh, yeah. Well, and then that leads to guilt and shame. And if there's anyone who's a queen of that, it's Brene Brown, and I'm a huge fan. But
Mhm.
she helps you really unpack that, Joe, because it's absolutely the truth. Caregivers are constantly comparing themselves to others. And the emotional roller coaster that all of you have mentioned from all of your different caregiving journeys are so valid. We also know, Joe, that the stress of caregiving takes 10 years off of a caregiver's life. So if you don't learn how to cope and manage that stress, which is what I didn't. I didn't know about that when I was actively caring for my brother. And if you don't learn how to better cope and manage your stress, because what happens is, I had a full toolbox over here. I had this very, like, overflowing. We all have excellent toolboxes. But in those moments of crisis, when they're coming down on us in full, just like water flow currents, we forget that we have this rich toolbox over here because we're so faced with the immediacy of the crisis. So you forget how to be. And so it's remembering to pause, be present, take a deep breath before you respond in any way to that crisis, and then go back to your toolbox. Oh yeah, I've got a tool for that. Oh yes, I know how to respond to this. I can be more present and more reflective and make less impulsive decisions in that moment for myself and my loved one. Because I think the other thing you hit on is, yes, culture and society has told us that taking care of yourself first, putting that oxygen mask on first, is selfish. And yet, if we don't put on our oxygen masks first, you only have 12 seconds of useful consciousness. So the chances of you actually passing out and helping no one around you on that plane are very real. But then it's also this concept of, if my health and well-being has declined to a point where I can no longer care for you, then what good am I? I'm of
Mhm.
no
Right.
good. We always put off our own appointments. We always put off our own health and well-being. So we've reframed it as health and well-being. And it's just essentially, you have to take care of yourself to provide better care to others. Somehow then caregivers, they can get behind that a little more. And you guys are
You
all
know,
nodding.
Yeah.
it's so funny because Kristi Jo, thank you for bringing this stuff to the front. Things like the challenges, or the how wrong it is, I'll say, to live a life of comparison. And when people ask, well, you and Russ, you have this show, what's it about? And I would say, it's a typical talk show. We talk about life and interesting stuff, and then we talk, let you promote ways to get in contact with you and work with you and so forth. I think I'm going to change that up, because it's not just about life and interesting stuff. It's life and really important topics, just like what you guys are bringing up today.
We can all relate to that, right? It's just so relatable. And what I think you both are so good at is finding the connection, right? It's connecting humanity to tell our collective stories. You're all telling stories, but we're actually collectively telling a community story that helps people to find their place. And when you can both validate and normalize this for people, they realize, I'm not alone sitting here in my house. I am with you. I have felt that too. And then you are building this really remarkable community of care where we can care for each other and support each other.
Yeah.
And
I just think that. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, just to add also the other lens of in different communities and different cultures, when we have, American does tend to be a little more individualistic. We see, marginalized communities actually are more in that collectivism, that collective culture where, we have to talk about that too, because the day-to-day American space is very fast-paced. It's about making quick answers. It's not about checking with, people who've come before you. And how do we not only bring this kind of teaching to our children so that they can start, yes, you need to do your chores. Yes, you need to do your homework, but I need to carve in some self-care in your day so that you are taking care of you, right? So we're promoting that idea from day to day. And how do we backtrack on that? And then also when we're even in workspace, I think it's hard, when the work culture is about hit, run, and that when someone wants to take time out, time off, while it is all the things, right? It's legal, of course, it's afforded to you. Does your culture from day to day tell people that it's okay? Does it say, you know what, you're right, this is your time to focus on you, and maybe there's some things we need to be doing to promote that so that you can be not only better for your home, your family, but also for your workspace. And so I bring in the marginalized communities because that is not an easy thing. It is sometimes it's an assumed value, and there isn't really space carved into it as well. And then the dynamic between the cultures, if I'm showing up as a first-gen Latina into a majority space, I may not feel safe to be able to ask for what I need without thinking that I might be risking either my reputation, my job, my position, how people see me. And so we have to be thinking about these. It's hard, it's a lot, but actually that's what caregiving is, right? Is actually caring and thinking about how we can do this for others, not only ourselves.
100%.
Well, I want to jump in there and say that, especially with, I have found with the deaf community, really marginalized people don't realize how much they are not afforded opportunities at times. They're overlooked, and there's a lot of cultures like that, and I think that's important. But also, I want to go back to your comment on basically self-care. I always use that. You both talked about that. The oxygen mask coming down. I think Kristi, you brought that up
12
first.
seconds.
But, the whole. Okay, but I always use that too, because it is such a good example. If you don't take care of yourself, how can you take care of other people? And I know I'm just ringing the same bell that you guys were ringing, but I want to emphasize that because it is completely, you guys are so correct. Our culture is it's a selfish thing to take care of yourself and not take care of others. And if that is your intent to only take care of yourself and you don't care about others, that's one thing.
Right.
But you've got to take care of yourself so you can take care of others.
Well,
and that is so important. And I am right there on the top of the list of people that are horrible at taking care of myself. And it takes my beautiful wife and good friends to sit me down and say, okay, breathe, relax, take a moment.
Right.
It's
Right.
okay.
Well, and Joe, you brought up a really great point, which is we set the example for our loved ones. So if I can't make a case for you that you have to take care of your own health and well-being to provide better care, then let me also give you an example or set the case for you set the example for your loved ones that might be struggling, that you're caring for. And so if you set a goal, which is future-oriented, hope-centered thinking, then your loved ones will take note. unless you don't share it. So you have to share what you're working on. You have to show lead by example. But by leading by example, those in your care will follow suit. And so why would I expect my 89-year-old dad who lives with me to get up and do his PT and find the inner motivation to get out of bed every morning if I'm not staying active and doing those things? Nagging him's not going to work. I have to set the example. I have to lead by example, actually show him that by getting more steps and being more active, I'm taking care of me. It's a responsibility to my own health and well-being, my body, to get stronger. So what we find is that when caregivers start taking better care of themselves, they are actually creating healthier, stronger families. I've got husbands saying, honey, you're going to be late for your support group. Get in there, because they know that those, life partners and wives are actually better, more patient caregivers and partners in life, and come out stronger and healthier on the other end. And so if it's not for you, you're doing it for others. You're setting that example. So
absolutely. I want to just do a shout out that, this all came to happenstance. So showing up for Russ and Scott, and I got to meet Kristi, but I just love that what we're doing for people is about being deliberate. And, the idea of, so for me, it's about creating your will, and not just you're creating your will. That's one document that will live with you for your whole life, but it's really about what happens around that. And it's so funny. People don't want to be a burden, right? Like, I don't want to put that on somebody. Like, I would never want somebody else to have to take care of me, but I'm going to act in my whole entire life in a way that will actually leave them everything without any answers once I die. Like, you won't know how any of my passwords, you won't know what that huge, enormous set of keys is for. Right. You won't know who my friends are and who to contact and who's probably out there like, what happened to Joe? And so it goes back to like, and these are, again, analogies we hear in the coaching world, in the business world, like, how do you, I don't know why the elephant is in the middle of this one, but how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. My business coach, Forbes Riley, uses that one. I love it. But the point is that we want a whole elephant at one time, instead of, again, it goes back to whether it's us or someone else, is starting with small things and then building on top of them. Like you said, I mean, your point is made. I'm actually about to go help my parents because my father is getting knee surgery, and he's been told that he can just pop out of bed, that he's going to be right on his feet. He'll be up to go up on the stairs. But my mom also had knee surgery a while ago, and it's not going well. So she, God forbid he fell, God forbid something happened, she wouldn't be able to lift him. But he's like, I'm good. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go for mom then. However I can get in there to get there, I'm just going to go in for mom. I'm going to go in with enough time to just set up a caregiving space so you understand how I'm running things while you are incapacitated. And we're going to set some ground rules. And even that, like, it's met with resistance. My father is a very proud Colombian man. He's, takes care of his own stuff. He's also 82. He's brilliant. And he can't see, like, he has to stay positive. Of course, he's going to get out of that bed. And I support that. And I'm going to be there to provide that backup, to make sure that that we're all taking care of ourselves.
Yeah. I think the other thing you touched on earlier too, with this kind of cultural norm, no matter what culture, and I so appreciate the lens on underserved communities, and we lead from a trauma-informed lens, so we're always looking to create a safe space. One of those members of our community, we do a little check-in, especially when there's new members in a support group, and we ask people to introduce themselves, who are they caring for, and what's their relationship of care and their loved one's diagnosis. And so this one participant every single time, and I just love this, says, "Hi, my name is Kristi. I care for myself, and I care for," and lists her people and those. And I'm thinking, isn't that beautiful? We should all start our introductions with, I provide care to myself, and I care for all these other people in my life, because it starts there. And then we become this inclusive community. And that's where we start to build this trust and this safe space of sharing our stories. Because of the guilt and shame around mental illness and many other serious illnesses, people are so afraid to share those stories publicly. And honestly, I don't know if my brother were still here, I'd be sharing mine, but I do know that I am worthy of my own story. And so regardless, I'd find that way through. So I do think that you bring up some excellent points there, Joe.
I know Russ is going to say he's got to be the responsible host before he does that. I was just thinking that Abraham Lincoln said something like, if I had 4 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first 3 hours sharpening the axe.
Wow, that's amazing. That is a great point, because we do, it's the intentionality, the deliberate approach, and the preparedness for life, I think, that make all the difference. And really, I think that the two of you, such an amazing conversation, so much great information. Joe, it was meant to be. God meant you to be on the show today.
You got that
And
right.
we're gonna have to do a part. We're gonna have to do a part 2 in the new year. We'll get you two back on again, because this was amazing. So much more to talk about. But
if
today,
you need
I
a
do have
sub,
to be the.
if you need a sub, I think the two of us could run a very, very fun conversation. I think I'm signing us up.
There you go.
I'm signing us up.
There you go. Well, listen, for today, I'm going to be the responsible host, and thank everybody for being here, and thank the two of you. It's so great to have you both on. And but I'm going to say goodbye to you for today. Thank you for being a blessing to all of us.
Thank you.
Hang tight in the green room when we say goodbye, because we're going to meet you there right after we close up.
Well, thankful for you, Russ and Scott. Thank you so much.
Nice
I know.
to talk
Thank
with
you. This was an
Kristi Jo.
absolute delight.
Yes, I couldn't agree
Fabulous.
more. It's what an amazing way to start my day. Thanks, everybody. Well, Scott, man, sometimes it's amazing how accidents work out the way they're supposed to.
Life is
Where I
good.
make an accident.
Life is good.
Oh my goodness. Yes, what a great conversation. And
Mhm.
we're just so blessed. And I just want to remind everybody just a couple things before we wrap up. And that is, we would love for all of you to be part of our community. We really would love for you right now, all of you watching live or on replay, share this out with people. Share it out. Tell them this is an amazing conversation. Joe and Kristi are two amazing people that you have to connect with. All of their information is in the contact in the show notes and in the comments. I didn't actually give them a chance to give their information, but it's all there. So anyway, and their information on books and whatever is there. Also, you can go to the experience.video and you can subscribe right now to our YouTube page, Scott and mine on the
Do it.
experience.live.
Do it.
Get
Click it now.
all of
Click
the
it now.
information. That's
Do
it.
it.
Click, click, click,
Do it.
click, click. And then you can get all the past amazing guests we have. So then when we have Joe and Kristi back on, you're going to need a refresher. So you're going to want to go back and watch this show to remember what we talked about so that you'll be ready for the new show. So please subscribe to that. All of their LinkedIn information has been scrolling across the bottom during the show, but all of that is there. I am at russhedge.com. Scott is at dscottsmith.com. Don't forget to get Scott's new book. Scott, I'm going to let you give a plug for that, but don't forget it's an amazing the things that Scott does. Scott, take it away. Go ahead.
Well, it's just been a joy to be able to co-write this with Veronica Jeans. And Joy Montgomery was our editor. She was also the editor for Russ's book. And so
Joy is amazing, by the way.
Yeah, it's just been fabulous to work with both of them on this. And stopinaction.com. Please go and take a look at it. There's a free course to be able to apply the concepts in the book to your business. Find the risks to your business and mitigate those so you don't lose your business. Too many businesses closed during the pandemic, and there are opportunities with every risk. And so be prepared to be able to capitalize on those. So that's what this book is all about. So very grateful for the opportunity to share that. And again, when people talk about the experience, what's it about? Tell them it's about life and important stuff, because
important stuff.
Today. Yeah.
That's
and people
life
tomorrow,
and important stuff.
Most people now have smart TVs. The experience.video, put that on your TV. Just let it stream all your family's over and just let it roll through. This is episode 91. So your whole 4-day weekend here can be filled with the experience.
Binge the experience. Binging the experience. Woo, you can watch it all weekend. Yeah. It was amazing when I first realized that with my smart TV. Hey, I go to YouTube and I can watch the experience live with Russ and Scott on my TV. So yes, I just we're just so thankful. Again, thank you, Scott, for being an amazing friend. The first person that came to visit me after my surgery was my good friend D. Scott Smith, that brought me a couple comic books, which I've read, and just so blessed to have such an amazing community. We need to support each other. We need to lift each other up. We need to bless each other, and we need to be thankful, because tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Make sure hashtag 1000 thanks listed in all of your social media posts. Be thankful yourself and show others that you're thankful, because if you're thankful but nobody else knows, well, that could be a little bit of a communication issue. So be thankful and let other people know by putting hashtag 1000 thanks. And Scott, I think with that, I think we're going to wrap things up here. Do you have anything else before we say goodbye to the good folks?
If you like this conversation with Kristi and Jo today, at 9 a.m. Pacific time on my wife's channel over, so you can go to the Aging Better Network and the live stream there, or on her LinkedIn profile, which is in the comments, and get more conversations just like this. She has fabulous guests every Wednesday, and they're just unscripted conversations, but very, very important conversations.
Yeah. Oh, very important. And Kristi, Christine is so Kermit's giving a shout out to her, so she's got to be. But she's what keeps Scott on the straight and narrow. So that's a big job, everybody. So she's got to be awesome. So
full-time caregiver there.
Yes, well, my wife has turned out to be a full-time caregiver. Maybe I should have had her in on the show here, because she has been caregiving for me. Anyway, love you guys. Have an awesome day. And until we see you again, have a great life and
enjoy the experience.
Thanks for tuning in to The Experience Live with Russ and Scott. If you enjoyed today's show, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or subscribe on YouTube. See you next time.